Wags with Ironman 4x4. We are still wrenching on our Jeep JLU. It's a Rubicon, and we're gonna be showing you how to rip off this lame rear plastic bumper and put on a real piece of armor to get ready for battle. So I am gonna walk you through each one of those steps. Let's go! Okay, first things first, go to Ironman4x4America.com if you're not already there. Find the rear bar for your Jeep JLU, download the instructions, or at least have them pulled up on your computator so that you can follow along. It'll save you a bunch of headache. But if you don't want to read or choose not to read, like me, just watch this video and I'll show you how. There's going to be a couple things to consider about your Wrangler, which trim level and model that you have. There's Rubicons, Saharas, all kinds of cool stuff. Ours is a Rubicon, and it comes with this fancy backup camera, which is technically just cheating. To get this thing removed, you've got this little Torx right there. Well, not everybody has a T40 Torx in their toolbox. You can take a flathead, but careful, it's plastic. You're just trying to turn the arrow from lock to unlock. Remove that off, very cool. Now, some models of Jeep have a rear license plate holder right here, so you may have to take that off, but all we're trying to do is get this rear tire removed so that we have extra room to work when we're pulling the bumper off. All right, grab a 22 mil socket. We'll pop these lugs off. You only got 3. And careful pulling this off. You don't want to bust that cheater camera. To remove the stock rear tire carrier, we've got 8 13 mil bolts. So grab yourself a 13 millimeter socket. Grab a fairly clean shop towel and a long zip tie. And if you don't have a long zip tie, just, zip 2 together. That'll work also. Because the idea here is once we pull this assembly off, it has a wiring harness here for our backup camera, and there's no quick disconnect. So we'll zip tie this to the rear door handle, and then we'll use the rag to let it hang on it, and then it won't scratch up our super tough Sarge green paint. Hey, the other thing I thought is kind of worth mentioning, and maybe this is obvious to everybody, but anytime I'm mounting or dismounting something that's hung vertically, don't loosen the top bolts first. Like, loosen everything underneath and leave the top bolts on, because gravity wants to rip that whole thing down. So if you save the bottom for the last, it's the same thing when you're like mounting and dismounting your tires. You'll notice that when you go to pull that bottom bolt off, the whole thing is going to fall on you, or it just puts undue stress on the bottom. So look, my #1 rule in life, I just let gravity do the work for pretty much everything. Rollerblading, falling down, ab workouts, anything you can think of. Throwing things at people. Always maintain the high ground. You can throw stuff. You can hit people so much further away with things if you're up high. It's true. Sweet. I told you it'd work. All right, come over here, swing around, zip tie this together. Don't touch the paint. Do not touch the paint. Come on, man. It's like playing Operation. All right, we'll grab our rag, find where it wants to rest. I'm going to use my rag right here. Cool, right on. You've got these little shim plates on the bottom and the top, so you want to pull those out and set them down. They appear to be the exact same thing, so you shouldn't, doesn't matter if you mix them up. With the rear wheel tire carrier hanging off to the side and safely secured, now let's pull this trim piece off of our hinges here. You're going to need a T45 Torx bit to remove this guy. See, I told you if you didn't hold it, that thing was coming down, baby. We'll pull that off. Another crucial piece of information, when you pull that hinge plate off, do not open the door of your Jeep. I mean, two things is you've got this all hanging here, so this should be your first warning to like, don't mess with your door handle. But if you were to open this up, these hinges would swing away and your door would completely come out of alignment. So just leave everything the way it is. All right, I know this isn't really part of anything, but I thought I'd give you just a really quick little auto detailing tip. I really like microfiber because it will not scratch your paint. Microfiber has a short side of the pill and then it has a long side. It's a lot softer. I buy these things at Costco. I mean, you can get them just about anywhere, but they're cheap if you buy them in bulk. Kind of shake them out. Here's the tip. When you're working on paint work, especially on like nice cars, and this is a rough and tough Jeep, so if it gets a couple scratches, who cares, man? We're gonna scratch up anyways. But like on a nice car, you don't wanna leave these tags on here. So just take them and tear them off and throw them away. Because even that little tag, if you're wiping back and forth, it'll put little micro scratches in your paintwork. Here's the deal. That's why when you clean a car, you never do circles. Circles will put swirls in there, and then the light picks up an infinite amount of reflective little scratches. That's why you work back and forth, up and down. None of this wax on, wax off nonsense. So left, right, up, down. So there you go. So now what we need to do, if you've got some quick auto detailer, you just don't want to have anything with grease in it. I've got some 777 Auto Magic here. I'm going to take my rag. Don't spray onto your paint. Spray onto your rag. Wow, that's a great bottle. There we go. So we're going to go nice and slow, get all this dirt off there. Again, the goal here is we want to get all the grease, grime, any extra adhesive on there. So one thing we could have done before we removed our hinge bolts is you can take a screwdriver. If this is all you have, you can take a flathead screwdriver, put a rag around it, and you can work it in between the door and the frame, and see how you can kind of lift and brace it. You're just trying to keep everything lined up. It's not essential that you do this before, but I guess if I was thinking this through, I should have done it that way. Look, I have these body panel removal tools. They're dirt cheap at any local hardware, Harbor Freight, whatever. I'm actually going to use this because this makes a little more sense, and I can keep it in there. There you go, it'll hold it, and then I don't lose access to my only screwdriver. So if you're installing the rear spare tire relocation kit, it's probably because you're running a larger wheel and tire. Larger wheel and tire actually has a lot more weight to it, and if you're going to put a ton more weight on that rear door, you need to reinforce those hinges, or you'll, over time, opening and closing, you're just going to blow those hinges out. So we have designed this rear support bracket, solid piece of hard, cold steel right there. And to do it right, we are going to apply these adhesive strips. Now the best degreaser, in my opinion, is just regular rubbing alcohol. So I put some in a little spray bottle, hose it down nice, get yourself a nice clean rag, and we want to wipe the whole thing down. The other nice thing about rubbing alcohol is it evaporates super, super quickly. It'll help this 3M tape to stick a lot better to it. So you've got these two adhesive strips. Obviously it should be pretty self-explanatory, but you should line them up ahead of time with the adhesive side down. Peel the backing off of there. Don't touch it with your fingers. Your fingers are covered in oil and gunk and grime, and you've been itching places you shouldn't, and you forgot to wash your hands. But I'm not going to hold that against you, because I don't throw stones in glass houses, people. So you can kind of line up these holes right here. In fact, I'm going to punch that guy out. All right, we got that guy down. I'm going to come back here, punch that hole out. It's like I tell you not to touch the back, and then I do it a bunch. All right, and then start from one side, and then you just kind of want to work it back like a decal. Get all those air bubbles. Go right down the center of it, see? See that movie magic? And then we can work our way out. We'll line up this guy on the front. This thing's like laser cut to fit, so now we'll push in the center, work it back. Yeah, there we go. Right on. You're cool, Meteor. All right, so we got our hinge reinforcement bracket. We have the adhesive padding applied, and this thing is a really nice piece of gear. So let me show you kind of how to orient yourself here. The padding, the foam padding, is going to face the hinge just like that, and that's going to push right on and over the top of your hinges. So now I'll show you how to set up the hardware. There's 4 supplied M10s. You're going to have split washer, flat washer, and bolt. Plug the bolt through. Now grab your OEM. These are little aluminum spacers that were originally here that we took off. Put that over on the back side. Kind of keep all that there hanging loose. And then guide these things in. So we don't want to scratch our paint. And then there you go. You can feel it kind of grab a thread in there. And that one grabs there. Okay, and we'll just get those loosely fit on the top. On the bottom, it's a little trickier. You want to slide that washer up there with your finger, line it up, bolt through. Leave it loose because now we got to do the other side on the bottom. So same kind of thing. Slide it up, grab your bolt, push it through, and then you're just trying to get everything to align back up. And this is where you might need to take body removal tool, and it'll help you kind of line everything up. Okay, and you want to leave these things fairly loose because we've got these guys over here that need to line up. So leave it loose so we can move it around. All right, grab your wheel carrier bracket. You're going to want to orient it. This is up. You've got this little gusset right here, the support piece. So that is up. Then go to your hardware kit and grab these 4 bolt plates. 1, 2, 3, 4. And a bunch of these clear plastic squares with a hole in the middle. They're just little retainers so it doesn't fall out. Grab the bolt plates. You're going to tuck one up in here, just like that. Nice. So you got one there. Plug this guy in here, swing it around so you can see. Anyways, do that for all 4. All right, remember those 8 bolts we pulled out to get the carrier off? Well, if you look at them, they've got a flat washer, and underneath the flat washer, they actually have a little nylon washer, or like a sealing washer, and that helps keep moisture out. So what we want to do is grab a 13 mil socket, and the fastest way to do this is just to do it on an impact gun. Put it in reverse, slowly, you want to grip down on the plastic washer. Weep, that easy. So pull all 8 of these sealing washers off your stock hardware because you're going to need it. Now grab the 8 bolts that came in your hardware kit. These are M8s. They are 55 millimeters long. Now take your sealing washer and put it on there. And similar exercise in reverse. Or forward, I guess. There you go. Lock it down so you've got spring washer, flat washer, sealing washer. It does not go on the ceiling. So we're going to put all 8 of these together. You know what I like about us? When it comes to like these little projects, we're so detail oriented, aren't we? We'd be really good at like crafts, things like that. Like stuff with like a hot glue gun. I think we'd be good at that. Make a wish. All right, grab your tire carrier plate. Make sure you've got it pointed up. You can always tell because this support pieces up here. You want to spin it around. Take those 8 awesome little bolts we put together with the ceiling washers, and you're going to plug 1, 2, a 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. 8 bolts. All right, so we got our carrier. It's almost time to put it on. Remember those OEM angled spacer plates? You can either use these ones that Ironman supplies you with, or you can reuse your factory OEM plates. It's totally your call. Well, we set them aside, so grab them. You kind of can't get them wrong. You just want this top one angled up. We're gonna put this dude right here, and then flip this one down, and Hoss goes there like that. We will actually start with the top. Man, this is a tough one too, because you don't want to scratch your paint. I gotta have like baby hands to do this. Okay. Take your time. You don't want to cross thread anything. So many times I get frustrated when something won't work, but you know, if you have to back the bolt out, examine it, start over again, the last thing you want to do is cross thread one of these nutserts in the door of your Jeep, because that means you now have to go get a drill and a tap and try to save it, or really you're probably just going to lose it. You probably no turning back if you ruin it. So just take your time, don't get frustrated. If something don't feel right, it's probably because it ain't. All right, instead of sitting here, I mean, if you've got calloused fingertips, because you're like a guitar hero or something, then good for you. But if your fingers are nice and dainty like me, sometimes instead of just sitting here cranking these bolts and trashing your fingers, just put the socket on it. That's a lot easier to finger tight a bolt. And what I'm trying to do here is just make sure all these washers are through the outer face of our tire carrier bracket. And once I'm very confident that I've got more than enough threads, then I'll grab my gun and we'll go slow. So I wouldn't use your big 1/2 inch impact. I've got a little 1/4 inch, and we will take it nice and easy. See how genteel I'm being? People say my genteelness is one of my worst features. Okay, so things are starting to snug down, and that's good. Anytime you have something that's spread over a large surface area, you kind of want to crisscross, just like when you're tightening down your lugs on your wheel. So we're going to start here on the outside. And again, all this hardware has split washers on them. So as far as torquing it down, you want it tight. But once that washer flattens out, if you go any tighter, you can actually open the split washer up, and then it's useless. So you just want everything to lay flat, and then the spring washer will do its job. So, you know, I don't know, that feels like maybe 30 foot-pounds, something like that. So we're here. We'll come across down here. Now we're going to go here. That one's tight for sure. That one's real loose. Also, if you look through the top side here, you can see the foam starting to flatten out right in there. So, and that's why you got the spacer plates over here on the left side to make up for that spacing there. All right, now let's tighten up the hinge reinforcement bracket. All right, we'll grab our 6 mil Allen, and we will tighten down the hinge bracket. Cool. Let's remove this wire from the bracket here and just pop it out just like that. Gives us a little extra bit of wiggle room. All right, that wire's loose. Now we're going to pop this zip tie. We are free. Safely put these somewhere where you won't forget them. All right, so we popped our rear tire carrier off of the zip tie. This wire here for your camera and your brake light, you want to pop it out of that bracket to give yourself some extra slack, but you want to keep it in the channel here. So if it comes out, you can just kind of guide it back in there. And then you're just going to hang the rear tire carrier up on these threaded studs that we put in, just like that. So now your wire comes out here between this gap, between the plate and the carrier. The wire was here, we popped it loose, and now it's hanging down here. So hopefully that makes it clear and you guys understand what we're looking at. So we've got the tire carrier just hanging on the bolts. Now what we're gonna do is go grab our nylock nuts and our washers, and we'll get it all secured down. All right, we got 8 flat washers and 8 nylock nuts. We don't need split washers because the nylocks, that's what they do. They hold it on. There we go. And we'll just get everything loosely spun on there. And just keep working your way around. Hey, another thing that you can or can't do, depending on what you want, it's your preference, but remember those clear plastic squares, those little retainer nuts to keep these bolt plates from backing off. You know, you can use them, and we suggest you do to make the installation easier, but if you don't like the look of it, you can either kind of push them out of the way so you can't see them, or you can try to cut them, or heaven forbid, I mean, you can do this just balancing it without using those. So it's kind of an optional thing. If you want to do it, go for it. If not, you know what, I trust you. I trust you'll make the right call. All of us here do. We're on your side. All right, everything's on there hand tight. Grab a 13mm socket, and we're gonna get this thing pinned down. There's a little bit of movement, so try to get everything centered up. And don't forget, this housing is plastic, so if you're using power tools, don't go full animal style on it. So this looks really good. We got our stock carrier. What this whole kit does is it moves it up, and you can see here, it's about 3.5 inches of height, which is great because if you're going from, say, like a 35-inch tire to a 37-inch tire, you actually don't need 2 extra inches because of the, it's the diameter. You have an inch on the top, inch on the bottom. So the overall growth on one side's only an inch. Circular, round, put in the quarter, round and round. Take good, block bad.
You gotta harness in the good energy, block out the bad. Harness, energy, block, bad. Circular, circle, with the music, the flow, all good things.
All right, we're ready to hang the tire back up. A couple things, put your camera surround nearby and your 3 lug nuts where you can reach. Get them easy if you're doing it by yourself. Grab your tire, lift with your back. Just kidding. And be careful when you're putting this back on because the camera's right in the middle. And you don't want to be busting that thing. There we go. Get a few threads. That thing ain't going nowhere. Now before I get this thing locked down, I'm going to show you something else real quick. In your kit, we also include these guys right here. And you may be going, what the heck is that? It looks like a big, super awesome socket. It's not. What they are is they're extended lug nuts. And they have a threaded hole on the end. So, depending on what model Jeep that you have, if you've got one without a rear camera here, and you've got the license plate mount, or if you've got an aftermarket license plate with the 3rd brake light built in or something totally high speed, you can take these guys, spin them on. We'll just say, for sake of argument, these are tight. And now you can actually bolt your license plate bracket or other accessories right here. Now the Ironman 4x4 tire relocation kit comes with a couple different options for mounting your rear license plate. Now that's dependent on what kind of Jeep you have and what kind of options that it's got. The first option is you mount this bracket on here, and it's for wheels, aftermarket wheels that have a really negative offset or a really deep dish. You can kind of see here how this bracket kicks out at a 45 to give you that extra clearance. You can bolt it on to the supplied lugs with the threaded holes on the end. Set this bracket up. Comes with a really nice rear license plate light to keep that all nice and bright at night. Run your wiring, zip tie it up. So that's one option. All right, option 2 is this setup here. You can bolt the rear license plate bracket directly to the threaded lugs. And this would be for like if you have a stock wheel that doesn't have reverse backup camera on it. Now for our Jeep, we're actually not going to mount our license plate here because we're going to be mounting it under the taillight on a bracket on our new Ironman 4x4 rear armored bumper. Once you got your lugs all tightened down, don't forget, last piece is this rear backup camera shroud. That just tucks on nice and tight. And then turn that to the locked position. You're done. Hey, if you're running a really big wheel and tire, your third taillight might get obscured. So one thing you can do, pull these two bolts on left and right, this whole fixture comes out. All these little Torx bolts, zip them out, this face piece comes off. You can actually unscrew the third brake light and then reattach it out here where it's not going to be obscured. Really nice little extra feature if you need it. Previously on another episode of us installing things, we installed our rear wheel carrier bracket. That's on there. We've got all this extra clearance. Now we're going to attack the bumper. All right, to get started, we got to rip out these inner fender liners. There's 3 8mm bolts right here. Grab yourself a ratchet, start cranking. If you want to put stuff in, you got to rip stuff out. Come on, smart guy, you knew that. Go do the other side. Your mom goes to college. All right, let's get the passenger side undone. If you just loosen these bad boys up, then you can pop your ratchet off. And spin them off with the socket. It also helps if you're not a huge wuss. Oh, my fingers hurt. All right, we're at the rear left-hand side of the Jeep. We're gonna locate the rear wire harness plug. Now, I actually not familiar with this style of plug and how we get the dang thing to pop open, so let's learn together. I think I'm gonna start by taking a pick, pushing it in there, and I think if we can get this, oh, dude, I guessed wisely. Depress that tab. See, I knew we'd get it. You're so smart. So that's undone. All right, now let's pop that out. If you've got yourself a little body clip removal tool, you can use that, or a flathead or a pick or something, or maybe just your hands if you're really tough. And just kind of work it back and forth. And, you know, just slowly ruin it. There we go. Remember that plastic inner fender piece we just took off? So now we're going to remove that support bracket. You've got two 16mm bolts that tie it to the frame, and you've got two 16mm bolts that tie it to the bumper. So we are going to buzz these guys out. Plug your ears. And there we go. We'll go old-fashioned on this guy. Set those guys aside. Let's get these two on the frame side. And let's do the same thing over on the other side. All right, we're gonna pull these 4 16mm bolts off. They're bolted into the underside of the rear cross member right by the hitch. It's all gotta come out. Let's unzip this tow hook. It's gonna be a 21mm socket. Big one. These bad boys are also a 21, but you ain't gonna be able to get your gun in there. I'll be here just doing this for a while. You can hit fast forward on the video. I'll be back. Maybe take a break, go get something to drink, check your text messages. Ah, finally, dude. All All right, now we got to get our passenger side. The other side had the tow hook. This just has the two up on the frame. And it's also a 21 millimeter socket. And these things are tough stuff. Careful when you're pushing this way, because you will literally saw your hand in half if you hit that exhaust pipe. Not a lot of throw. It'll be slow going. The good news is though, once you break that bolt loose, it just spins right out. All right, we've got these inner bolts out on the driver and passenger side. Now we've got to also take off these 16 millimeter flange nuts off of these brackets here. Then we'll pull our 4 center tow bar bolts and the bumper should pop right off. All right, now we are going to disassemble the tow bar, and there's 4 18 millimeter bolts. So Jeep makes several different models, nationally and internationally, which means outside of national. And your Jeep may or may not come equipped with a rear tow bar or a hitch. So if you don't have one, well, that sucks, because that means you can't tow anything. But if you want one, Ironman sells a separate bolt-on Class 3, 10,000 pound rated tow bar. So go to Ironman4x4America.com, look it up, because it's really nice. All right, so we've got all 4 bolts basically removed. I've got these last 2 in finger tight. So when you pull these out, be ready to catch a bumper in your face. So there we go there. Should all be on this one. It's kind of held in a little tight, so I think we're gonna have to kind of wiggle it out. This tow bar definitely wants to just pop right out. Cool. So that came out pretty easy. Now I think everything else, oh yeah. Tell you what, let's not do this under the truck so it doesn't fall on your face. All right, everything's loose. You just want to slowly wiggle it back and forth. There's a couple brackets in here that can be a little stubborn. Oh, there it goes. Nice. And it's off. All right, with the OEM bumper off, we're ready to go ahead and prep up our new Ironman 4x4 rear armor. Wanted to show you a couple things. First of all is the integrated, fully rated recovery points. These are pretty slick. They mount in from behind like that. And so that's what they're gonna look like when they're installed. And I'll show you, because we've also supplied you with a couple different shims. You've got thick shims, a medium, and a small for each side. What I found works the best though, here in the States, is just take that big fatty shim and that'll line it up dead nut center. So lay out a piece of cardboard, or you can use the box, put the bumper face down. And what we want to do is we want to grab our recovery point. I'll show you kind of how you want to hold it. So get it set up like this. In your hardware pack, you're going to have 4 of these big bolts. Line up the bottom 2 holes down there, just like that. Let them hang. Take your big shim. See how that matches up like that? And we'll put the big shim all the way down like that. And it'll kind of hold itself in place, sort of. It'll hold itself in place if I hold it. How about that? Now that we've got that, take your recovery point, sneak it past, and feed the bolts through. And that's what you want to do. So it's the 2 holes nearest to the back side of the bumper shell. Leave these holes here open. We're going to wait. These bolt onto the chassis. Now grab flat washer. I don't want to hold too much clearance here. I'll grab another flat washer for the bottom one. Let's grab spring washers. Here's one right here. Another spring washer. Springtime. That's on. And now we're looking for 2 of these guys. And if you have to kind of pull the bolt back a little bit, it'll give you more room to work, but you just don't want to lose any of the hardware that you've got staged on that top one. Okay, so that's on. I'm gonna let that ride. Let's go after this guy before it falls away. Oops, look at that. Perfect. I'll spin the bolt from the back side. We'll just get these things finger tight. And we can lock everything down once we get the other side done and get the bumper fitted up onto the chassis. Then we can lock it all down and get our alignment set just right. One reason why I like using the cardboard box the bumper came in is because you need an overhang so you can poke your recovery points through all the way. So we've got the rear driver's side one done. Now we'll take 2 bolts, do the exact same thing we did on that side. Cool. Grab the recovery point, carefully fish it down through. We've got really, really nice powder coat on them. I do not want to scratch them up. Come on. Cool. Man, that looks so good. I love how the recovery points are a truly full rated recovery point that pulls from the frame. So many other manufacturers just weld recovery points onto the outer shell of their, front and rear bumpers, and that's not pulling from a position of strength on your vehicle. So I really, really like that Ironman 4x4. They've been doing this since 1958. They understand recovering vehicles, winching, heavy recovering, armor for your truck, suspension. Experience really plays a huge role here. They know what they're doing and they do it right. And grab a 22 socket and a wrench, and I'm just going to snug up these 2 recovery point bolts just so they're not super, loose and slopping around. Then we won't have to wrench on them so hard once we get it fitted up to the back of the Jeep. Okay, so we've got our recovery points mocked up and ready there sitting. Next step is we want to get the lights that came with the rear bar installed. Ironman 4x4 has a great range of these Sabre lights. So check out those in the Sabre X light bars. Super, super high quality. I've been really, really impressed. Isn't that just so satisfying? It feels so good. All right, I will show you guys how to get the brackets set up. These are going to be overhung lights with the brackets. So here on the bar, it's a fully boxed and housed protection for your lights. They even come with a really nice rock plate so that if you do kick up some rocks or something like that, it won't just destroy the back side of your lights. Keeps your wire harnesses all nice too. So because they're top mount, your bracket is going to fit down over the top of the light just like that. But first things first, open your hardware pack, take your big bolt, and we're going to flip it through there. It's got these raised mounts that hold the bolt in place. Now we can make sure we flip the light like this. I like doing it upside down so that bolt doesn't come flying out. Grab a small cap screw with a small spring washer. Get it in there. There you go, finger tight. Grab a 4mm Allen wrench. I'm just going to spin that down a little bit. Spin that guy down in there. Grab that Allen wrench. All right, so depending on how you want to set them up, I want mine pretty much straight out the back, maybe canted down just a touch. You want to drop it in just like that with the bolt sticking back towards you. Go past the slot in the housing of the bumper and then rock it back in. Grab your flat washer, split washer, and the nut. Yeah, it just takes a little extra bit of time. Cool, all right. And we want to get these things locked down now because once we get it fitted up on the Jeep, it's going to be hard to get access back here again. All right, grab a 13mm ratcheting wrench. Tighten those guys down. I've got mine canted out just a little bit because I'm going for a little bit wider spread. Now Jeeps come in all kinds of different trim levels. Our Rubicon has a front and rear backup camera, so we didn't get parking sensors, but your Jeep may have the parking sensors. If it does, we've already cut out provisions for those sensors for you. We've got brackets, all the hardware you need, the 3M double stick gaskets to hold them on there. Just spray down the surrounding area with rubbing alcohol, wipe it down real good to get all the dirt and grease off. Then hit it with some of this included adhesion promoter. These things will stick right on, they'll never come off. Now there's one critical step that I forgot to mention. Since our Rubicon doesn't use the parking sensors because we have the front and back camera, if your Jeep does have those sensors, be extra careful when you remove them to put them right back in the Ironman 4x4 bumper exactly how they came out of the OEM bumper. Use your iPhone or camera, take a picture so that you don't forget, but it's crucially important that you get them right back the same way they came out. If you don't, it'll throw the system off, it could throw codes at you, create all kinds of problems. So just take your time, take pictures, then you won't forget. All right, now we're good to put the backer plates on. It's a really good idea. Run your pigtail for your pod light through here, put the backer plate just like that, and that's going to keep all the gravel and rocks and garbage from destroying your back of your light. Now it's going to be tight quarters, but you want to take this little guy here. It's a 4mm Allen cap screw, and this is a 10mm serrated flange nut, and we will line it up and lock it down. Cool, we'll get the other one put in. What's nice about these serrated flange nuts is that a lot of times you don't even need to get a wrench on the back side of it, because as you tighten the front of the bolt head down, it kind of digs in and holds itself. Yeah, I'm just using my fingers. You can already feel it's just locking down. All right, let's do the other side. One thing I like to do is I'll take a piece of Gorilla Tape. First of all, I'll spray this with alcohol to get all the grease and grime off of it, and then just put a piece of Gorilla Tape right over here, and then it helps just keep extra moisture out from in here. And since we're not running parking sensors, I cover that up too. So if you are so lucky to reside in these United States of America or Canada, Ironman 4x4, an Australian company, went out of their way to help us Yanks out and design an actual US spec license plate holder. And we're gonna put it on the bumper. So grab these button head Allen screws, and you can set it up this way with the L facing out towards your truck, or out away from your truck, or in towards your truck. I think I like this look better. So I'm gonna try it like that. I might switch it later, who knows. Just kind of depends on whatever mood I'm in. The top cap screw is a 5mm Allen, and the bottom is a 13mm serrated flange nut. We will lock these guys down. Pop quiz, what's the difference between the rear driver's side chassis and the rear passenger side chassis on your Jeep? If you answered B, threaded bungs, you were correct. I so wanted to say threaded bungs in a video. I'm concerned. Are you saying that I have a cheap Jeep Rubicon? No, not exactly. Here's the deal. The reason why Jeep put threaded bungs on this side is because that's where your single recovery hook went. I guess they just figure everybody's gonna do aftermarket stuff if they wanna get serious. Okay, so fine. So over here, pew! So on the passenger side, there's no threaded bungs because you don't get a recovery hook over there. Ironman 4x4, thought of that. Super obvious. We've got this nut plate here. Slide it right inside that frame rail. And now, you're good to go. That way, right and left side of your bumper is going to be pulling from that chassis. Super tough, super strong. Okay, USA. All right, we're ready to hang the rear bar. On the rear left hook side, we're going to reuse the factory hardware, these 4 bolts. Set them right there. Now, on the passenger side of the chassis, or the right-hand side, we are going to use the included hardware that Ironman 4x4 so graciously loaned us. So you know what? Hanging a rear bumper, probably want to get a friend to help you. And if you are your own best friend, then great, you're going to need his help too. Look at that. Well, sort of did it. Let's see here. Maybe a little bit closer. Easiest way, I'm going to try to get this bottom bolt threaded. All right, now I'm going to swing over to the driver's side. All right, we're on the driver's side. I'm going to lift. I got a bolt on the passenger side securing it. Just going to get this guy started. I can also cross the street and chew gum at the same time. That's what my LinkedIn profile says. You know, in all seriousness though, that was not that hard. Just go slow, take your time. Where are we at over here? Look at that even lines up. This is going to be a 22 millimeter socket. And you want to lock these guys down good and tight. Last step, get your trailer plug bolted back up. Remember these 4 bolts we pulled out from the bottom side of the cross member? You've got 1, 2, 3, and 4 down here on the passenger side. So start with the one in the middle. Take this 16 mil bolt that you pulled out. Just thread that in nice and loose. Slide that guy in. And we'll just zip these down. We need to discuss how to get our license plate hooked up if we're going to run it on this bracket and not on the spare tire carrier. So grab your OEM bumper. We're going to pull the wire harness out. Ironman 4x4 has included these awesome little LED lights. They basically work as replacements for the top bolts of your license plate, and then they shine down and line it up. So this is just a recommendation because there's several ways of doing it. You don't have to take this wire harness off, because if you want to sell this to somebody and they want to buy it all complete, just leave the wire harness. You can also go on the vehicle's side and cut that connector off and wire it in directly. But the way I want to do it is I'm going to take the wire harness out so that we keep the nice weatherproof plug. We'll cut it down here somewhere, splice in our lights. It'll be clean, it'll be watertight and good to go. And whoever buys this bumper, they can go to the dealership and buy this wire harness. So grab your favorite body clip removal tool or a flathead screwdriver or some pliers, because we're going to pop all these little retainer clips out. There's one there. You got a few of them, so there. And we'll get this last one pulled off. All done. So if you remember earlier on in the prequel, we unplugged this wire harness from the driver's side rear. That is just for the rear license plate light. And you know what? Good job, guys. Talk about over-engineering. This has got to be the largest connector I've ever seen for 2 of the smallest wires. So I'm going to plug back in that wire harness that we removed from the bumper side. And if I can figure out how it goes, I think it goes like that. And it do. So I've tried to use a screwdriver, a pick. I cannot get this stupid little white retainer tab in, so I'm going to take a pair of friggin' channel locks and we are going to, you know, kill it with kindness. Boom. Now I'm just going to plug the connector back into where we removed it from. That fits in there. We'll land that guy right back in here. And now it's just kind of up to us where we want to route the rest of this wire. And the goal is to route this line up between the truck and the back of the bumper to the license plate. So this next one I think we can put right in here, and that'll stay. Right, and then I'm just going to slide the rest of the harness around the bumper, kind of feed it up. Will give us an idea of how many of these retainer clips we want to leave and how many we want to remove. When you're routing this wire, don't just cut all these retainer clips off. Route the wire first, then you'll know how many of these you want to use, because, I don't know, they're kind of slick, and if it helps you keep the wire retained, that's what you want. All right, I'm going to let this wire harness just kind of hang tight for a little bit. We're going to crack open these LED lights for our license plate. Ooh, freshness. All right. We'll flip these guys out and let me show you what we're working with here. Let me break it down for you. See these little guys? Kind of a cool little design. So what we're gonna do is spin this nut and this washer off. So take your license plate. Hopefully it just says Ironman like mine. It's probably, if you have sewing skills, you're gonna be good at this. I feel like that's what I'm doing. All right, so I got light, black washer, optional. Now we'll feed the wire through the top license plate mount. Then we got washer, weep, and then we got nut. All right, there's something that we need to break down for you. These little LED lights are super cool, low profile, slick. I really like them. They do have one challenge, and that challenge is the connectors. Once you hook these up, you're not going to be able to pull them back out if you need to change out your license plate. Now, that's not a big deal for most of us. Most of us just have one license plate. We're law-abiding citizens. You know, when was the last time you had to pull your license plate off your truck? Not very often. Let me show you what I mean. Any connector that you use has to be small enough, if you want to do this, has to be small enough to fit through this assembly. Has to go through the nut and through the washer. So let's just say, hypothetically, you want to leave all your connectors on here. Well, as you pull this all apart, see how I'm pulling the wire through? Eventually, you're going to hit your connector. Now look, don't lie to me, don't lie to yourself. We all know you're going to Harbor Freight to buy your connectors the same way I do. This is the smallest 12-volt butt connector you're going to find. And guess what? It don't fit. It's close, but it just don't fit. So if you have to pull your license plate off, you're going to have to cut your wires and then resplice it. Grab yourself a 10 mil wrench and we will snug it down. And to get everything all secure, I am just going to run a zip tie through this bottom mount. And then let me just get this thing together. Now we'll feed both our wires through. I'm not going to loom these, at least not here, because I don't think I need to. So what I'll do is this will provide enough pressure to lock these down. See, that wire's not touching anything. That looks pretty good. I'll lock that zip tie down nice and tight. There, that looks pretty clean. Now we can get into our harness. All right, on the factory wire harness, we don't need any more of these cable retainers. So I'm just going to get in behind it and cut it off. You just don't want to cut the wires, obviously. Cool. Drop that one out. So we've got all of our wiring mocked up and laid out. Now we know how much length we need. I'm going to leave myself enough wire that I can work on this with the connectors out here, and then I'll feed it back inside the bumper and probably just zip tie it back on itself. So we'll just make some loops, zip tie it down to the bumper, leave a little bit of slack in there because obviously, you know, the bumper's mounted to the chassis, the body is on body mounts, so you're going to get a little bit of flex. So you don't want things you never want things super tight. So leave a little bit of room. Easy. All right, so we'll cut our OEM wire harness. And then we need to also get inside here of the factory loom. Now that we got all of our loom pulled back, I'm going to strip back these wires right here. And then we will go grab a multimeter. So you're going to need wire strippers, obviously wire strippers or wire strippers, a set of wire cutters. I always use a multimeter just to check to make sure. All right, so go turn your headlights on and then take your multimeter and we're gonna hook red to the white and blue stripe, black to black. Look at that, 12.3 volts. And we can do a quick little test. Bink, bink, bink. He's turning right. So normally I would wire this up differently, but because we know that we're basically gonna have to cut the wires to get the license plate off, I'm just gonna wire both lights together. So red with black to red with black. When it comes to wiring, if you can kind of open up the little wires, all those little threads, and then spin them together, that works really good. Makes them stronger so they won't pull out of the connector. Obviously soldering's the strongest and the best method, but I'm not gonna judge you on what kind of connectors you use, but Mother Nature might. So because this is an outdoor application, grab yourself some waterproof connectors. But these connectors are nice and they're cheap. You can pick up a pack off of Amazon. Now Harbor Freight sells them too, but it's just nice. We'll crimp it down, hit it with the heat gun. It's got a little bit of dielectric goo in there. The whole thing just becomes watertight. So that is the ground, or the earth if you are an international consumer or really into nature. It's called earth. Hook up. Hot to fire. That'll do, pig. All right. Hit it with the heat gun. Zap! And now it's that time in the show for Wags' Electrical Tape Minute. I am using 3M's Super 33 electrical tape just to kind of loom this up. But my question to you, since I'm too lazy just to go on the internet and look it up, what's the difference between 3M's Super 33 and Super 88? Because I spent like 10 minutes at Home Depot kind of reading the difference. Can't figure it out. I used to use Super 88, which is awesome electrical tape, but it's really, really expensive. And then I started looking at the Super 33, and it's, I don't know, $4 cheaper. So I just use the Super 33. It has all the same ratings on it, so I don't know. If you know, call me. 971-264-9016. Or send Bubba a live chat. Scream at him about it. We just got done installing our Jeep JLU's rear Ironman bumper. This piece of armor is super tough. And to kind of finish off the install, we're going to be throwing on a Ironman 4x4 Class 3 hitch. Hitch, receiver, tow bar, depending on where you're at in the world and what you want to call it. All right, so let's talk about the hardware setup on this Class 3 hitch. It's got 4 bolts that are going to tie into the rear cross member right behind the bumper. The bolts on the end, you're going to set them up with a split washer, flat washer on this side with a nylock nut. That's going to be for the 2 outer bolt holes. And then the 2 inner bolts, you're going to just have the bolt and a flat washer. And then we've got these welded nuts right here that it'll just bolt right into, just like that. We also included a bracket if you're running a 4-pin hitch, kind of the old school style. We're not going to need it for our setup because our Jeep has the more North American classic 4-pin and 7-pin. All right, so you're going to need a 18mm socket for the bolt head and a 19mm wrench for the nylock nut. All right, this is really easy. Take the hitch. You're going to locate the 4 center holes on the cross member. Lift this bad boy up into place, and then we'll feed one of these bolts in. It's a little bit tight because you're kind of up here behind the muffler. We'll grab the second bolt. There it goes. We'll just spin those down, finger tight. Grab our outer bolts. We'll pop it through here. And once it comes through, we'll pick it up on the front side. with a flat washer and that nylock nut. Let's grab our tools and we will start in the middle. We'll get that a little snug. Starting on this other guy. Now would be a good time for me to tell you, if you haven't watched our rear bumper install on the JLU, that I thought tow bar, which is what these are called internationally, wouldn't that be a good name for a caveman? Tow bar of the hill people. I think it would. All right, so we're gonna fit a 19 millimeter wrench on the front of that nylock nut, and we've got our 18 socket, and we'll just start tightening it down. All right. Okay, that is hanging down. All right, now I'll jump back to my center two, and we can lock these babies down. All right, we've got everything tightened down pretty good. All we need to do is grab our torque wrench and lock all 4 of these bolts down to 64 foot-pounds. That one's done. All right, that pretty much does it for the install of the rear tow bar on our Jeep JLU. If we can help you make a purchase for one of these bad boys, reach out to us at 971-264-9016, or you can talk to a customer service agent over the live chat at Ironman 4x4America.com. Now, I said we were done with our install, but there's one last step. This is so satisfying. Like peeling off an old sunburn. Now, a couple things you can do after the bumper's fully installed. On the lights, you still need to wire them up, so you can grab one of our independent wiring harnesses and hook it up, or you can run your own loom if you want. We leave kind of all those options up to you because everybody wants to do something a little bit different. I just thought I'd take a second though at the end here and talk about some of the really great features and benefits. First of all, this rear bar, it's cold hard steel. It's not aluminum, so if you get into rocks or something, you're going to slide off. Aluminum, everybody that knows it's ran aluminum, armor, you get on a rock, it peels back, you stick to it, you can't slide off. So trust me, steel is the way to go on this. It's all EDP coated, so great corrosion resistance. 100% of all the material on this thing has been coated and powder coated, so you're not going to get any corrosion. You've got high lift jack points that are built in right here for you on the left and the right. These are truly rated recovery points. I mean, we just got done installing this. These bolt directly to the frame. The strongest part of your Jeep is right here. So you're not going to flex or deflect that bumper shell and damage any bodywork. All right, well, I appreciate you guys letting me help with this install video. I hope it helps you out if you're rocking one of these. If you haven't pulled the trigger on one yet, you can check them out at Ironman4x4America.com. Our customer service agents are on there on the live chat, so you can hit them up there. You can also call us at 971-264-9016. We'd love to talk to you and get you set up.